welcome to your award-winning The Reasons I'm Broke podcast, bringing you the reasons we're broke through news and headlines ranging from comics, movies, TV, video games, and more. I am Daniel, and this week we're going through sector number 447, and I have the return of someone who I've been in contact with for several years, thanks to, I believe, Twitter at first. And I am very happy and grateful to have Millennial Mike from the Film Exiles on the co-host chair. Welcome back, Mike.
Hey. It's your entitled geek Millennial Mike, and I guess some good things do come from Twitter. I did meet you there, so yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has been, and I think it was primarily from the Snyder Cut movement, and we've both been on the battle lines, basically, pushing
BBS
for
Wars.
the Snyder Cut. Yes, exactly. So we kind of come from that same fandom, and you have a very deep understanding of what we've all been through as being fans of Zack Snyder's work in the DCEU. So it'll be interesting, especially with today when we have a lot of bits of news from the Snyder Cut.
Always, my friend, always. I'm sure over the past few weeks, you probably have been talking about the Snyder Cut of Justice League, but there's always, it seems like every week, every day, there's something new. So it's kind of nice, to have that ongoing stream of information.
It does feel a little bit like the podcast has evolved into primarily a DCEU show, especially over the last year. But it's like you mentioned, every week it's been a ramping up of news, a whole new development, and then the fact that we got the confirmation of the Snyder Cut. Of course, it's going to turn into that, especially when it's something that I'm passionate about and something that, as I bring on more and more people onto the show, that's the show's going to kind of go that way. But we do have several headlines on that, so let's jump right into this week's news. First one is the Dreamscapes of Zack Snyder's Justice League exhibition. This one opened up in downtown Dallas, was then swiftly closed by Warner Brothers, and then officially reopened. Did you keep up on the development as they were going back and forth on, does Warner Brothers not want this exhibit to happen? Are they trying to kill any promotion? What were your thoughts as you were seeing this?
Man, there's been so much... There have been so many, I guess you could say, controversial things happening in regards to Zack Snyder's Justice League and its marketing, its advertisement, its promotion. And it's really hard to say. In the past, I would always say that if something like this happened, it was due strictly to Warner Brothers' ineptitude. But I really don't know. I mean, as more information's come out, I tend to lean on the side that Warner Brothers, they're not only aware of what they're doing, but much of what they do is not, nefariously. It's hard to deny some of the stuff, especially with Bray Fisher talking about what the lengths they're willing to go in regards to posting with the trades and things like that. So it's really hard to say for sure, but it would be really easy to say that it was just pure ineptitude, wouldn't it?
It is really hard to say because I'm leaning on the side of they are purposefully trying to stamp out any promotion. You've seen it on Twitter too, where they're not even retweeting or tweeting about the Snyder Cut. It's all HBO Max. It's all AT&T, Jason Kyler, and everyone else that is on camp HBO Max. And it's kind of sad to see that.
Is it Kyler? Is that his name?
It's Kyler. Yeah, I'm still trying to get used to saying it.
You're
Kyler,
probably the only one who is saying his name right. Like the only one.
And it's really messed up too, because they could have easily been the good guys in this, even if it's not their network. It's still a part of the same team. Yeah, it's a different part of the umbrella, but they could have been the good guys and still promoted it. But unfortunately, there's still a lot of egos at work and a lot of hurt feelings behind this thing.
I think it's funny that you mentioned that, like they could have been the good guys. Do you remember was it the Vanity Fair article where Warner Brothers was like, hey, just release your raw cut, release what you got on your laptop, and then Zack's like, no. Remember that? And he's like, and one of the few reasons why he said he wasn't going to do that is because Warner Brothers could make themselves out to be the good guys for releasing it. And I'm wondering if that were to happen, if they would ever play that, because I mean, they could just sit back and let HBO Max like do everything and then just like not interfere, and then everyone would be like, hey, Warner Bros. Is pretty cool. But the only reason why we hate them now is because they've been actively, interfering. So I just find that kind of interesting that you mentioned like, oh, they could have been the good guys, but I'm like, maybe not.
I think Zach did have a lot of foresight in saying, no, we're not just going to release the cut. And it's as he mentioned, he already knew the kind of tactics that they were going to play. Coming from the world of marketing, he knew how they were going to spin this so that nothing else came out of the Snyderverse. So they're not on Zach's side. They're not on HBO Max's side. And I don't know how Jason and Toby and everyone else that is involved with, Toby especially is involved in both WB and HBO Max now, but I kind of want to be a fly on the wall in those calls or those talks as they try to figure out how best to handle the Snyderverse moving forward.
Well, I tell you what, the rate at which information about this is coming out has increased so much that I would argue that we will probably know most of the information sooner than we would have ever expected. Because there was a time where like we just knew that there was the Snyder Cut simply because of our own intuition, right? We know what Zach's movies are like. That wasn't it. We could kind of just pick up things that we were and put it together. Like, there's got to be an actual movie out there. I mean, after all, we know that Zach always films what he shoots. And he's very integral to whatever he believes in. So this, and as time's gone on, it seems like the floodgates have just slowly began to open, and more information has been coming out. So I would, like I said, I would argue that all the things that we want to know, it's probably going to be right around the corner. We're probably going to know more than we ever expected, sooner than we expected. So I just think if we stick with what we're doing, make this successful. And just be patient, and with Ray doing his thing, trying to root out the snakes. I think that we'll see it. No need to be a fly. We'll all be flies.
That makes a lot of sense, because if we do make this into the massive success that I think it will be, that's when AT&T is going to see that project. They're going to back it. They're going to put more power behind it. And that's when they're going to be further independent from Warner Brothers and from whatever Hamada and all of them are trying to do. It'll just be Team HBO Max and Team AT&T, and they won't have to worry anymore about needing to play nice or collaborate with the other side. And I think you're absolutely right that as soon as this truly is its own pillar of entertainment and continues to be supported by everyone else, not just the Snyder Cut movement, but the general audience too, that's when it's going to have that stronger footing of, okay, now we can see where certain people went wrong, who isn't supporting this, whose behaviors should be further called out on. And you're right. I'm thinking this year for sure.
Yeah, we can definitely hope. All the recent events have definitely just made me more positive than anything. There was a really dark time where it just felt like we were working and there was diminishing returns, but now all of our work has been proving very, very successful, in retrospect. So it's hard to be completely negative. We do have a challenge, but there's always been a challenge. So let's keep doing it.
Got to keep pushing. That's right. Let's talk about the exhibit that they did open up here in Dallas. It was full of nightmare costumes, photos of cast taken by Zach, and it's still available. I don't know for how much longer they're going to keep it up, but if you're in the Dallas area, there were also these original plans for Justice League Parts 2 and 3, along with images drawn by Jim Lee. Zach has since said that the story has evolved, has changed, and that he doesn't consider the storyboards to be spoilers at this point. So there's a lot of key words and phrases here where if the story has changed since then, obviously someone or several people have continued to work on whatever script initially was brought out by Jeff Johns. He had since said on an interview that Jeff Johns is the one who wrote all of this down and kind of hinted at him being the one who leaked it out to the other side, being Kevin Feige and Disney and the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts on them publicly displaying the plans, and whether or not we want to get into specifics? I don't know if it matters because this isn't necessarily confirmed, but.
Right. Well, so I did, I didn't read the full script. I did ask about a few key things that happened. So I do know a little bit about it, but I was definitely planning on going back and looking at it. But I did want to see the movie. And honestly, because a lot of people are actually going back and they're watching Justice League to prepare themselves or maybe create like a greater contrast so they can really see the difference or the improvement. But personally, I just want to forget about it. So with that same philosophy in mind, all these could have been, should have been, things like that. Like I'm totally up for it. I'm very interested in whatever plans he may have had. But in general, I kind of just want to make it to the release, watch it, and then have just as a blank and true and pure experience as I can. Because I feel like I've worked so hard and I've taken on a lot of stress and a lot of negativity in some ways and a lot of positivity too. And I just, I kind of want to be just a fan. So, but in general, though, I mean, with what you're talking about, though, I did look into it a little bit. Like it was interesting. What's the toxic gas villain from Wonder Woman? What's her? Oh, are we talking spoilers?
Well, I know who you're talking about.
Can we say spoilers or?
Yeah. But this is your spoiler warning in case you care about what never happened or isn't happening yet.
I mean, who knows? He may circle around with some of this stuff, but
yeah, probably some of it. But I think, as Zach said, he doesn't consider it spoiler, so I don't know how much. Moreau, right? Wasn't it Dr. Moreau or something?
Yeah, Doctor, Morrow or Maru. Yeah. I think it's Maru. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I thought it was really interesting because I was wondering, like, okay, obviously there's going to be this climactic event that happens in Justice League 1 or 2 where most of the league is dispatched. And then you only have Batman, Flash, and half a cyborg left, according to I think the script, to kind of fix things. And I was really curious to go how did that exactly take place? Like what would that have looked like? And I just remember something about Maru dropping a biological weapon on Themyscira and killing everyone, including Wonder Woman and the Atlanteans. Also getting mostly wiped out, and it was pretty Injustice timeline level stuff. So I was like, whoa. I wonder what the reception to that would have been.
Yeah, it would have been a strong one for sure. And I had thought I'd remembered seeing that she dies protecting Lois, Wonder Woman, originally, and I don't know if that's just the fans theorizing or if
that's part of the scary idea, right?
I'm not sure. I don't know because you were saying that this doctor ends up killing Wonder Woman in the original script, and I don't know if it's now debunked that she was protecting Lois Lane in the Batcave.
Right, I do remember hearing about that. Because I mean, from what I understand, is she was supposed to be with Batman, and Snyder kind of insinuated in an intimate way. Okay. And then Darkseid comes in and kills Lois. But I also heard something about Wonder Woman being there too, which would be really weird. But her and her lasso. I mean, who knows, right? But yeah. So there's a lot of things that I've heard about, but I can't really say for certain.
What do you think about Zach saying, pretty much hinting that Jeff Johns was the one who wrote all of these plans down? Because in case anyone didn't hear this particular podcast, he said that all of it was on a whiteboard, and that it was on this mechanized thing that would go down into the floor whenever he was out of the office. That way people couldn't steal the plans. And he said he wrote it all down. He wrote it down, referring to Jeff Johns. And without saying that Jeff Johns is the one who wrote it down and then shared it with whomever, I heard that he walked his dog with Kevin Feige, and that he had lunch meetings with other people on the other side. And
wait, Zach?
No, Jeff Johns.
Oh. So yeah, so Jeff having copied it and then shared it, basically?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, that's been kind of a suspicion for a while. If we're looking at all the different facts that we know, for instance, we know that, James Gunn is now a part of the universe now, and he's, openly said that he's had Feige on set.
Yeah.
Things like that Warner Brothers is giving him full control. We know that according to Ray, Warner Brothers is actively trying to diminish Zack. We know, according to Zack, that they didn't like his ideas. They were trying to liven it up to be more like Marvel. I mean, these are all things that we've established. You know, they brought over James Gunn, who's also from Marvel. It's not terribly conspiratorial. It's not a huge logical leap to believe that at the very minimum, they were doing whatever they could in their power to change the narrative of their content and what Zack Snyder created. And at worst, it could be something more nefarious. I can't say it for certain. None of us can, but they're either really, really stupid, really unprofessional, and just, you hope that they're stupid, because that sounds less like, tinfoil hatty, and makes you look less like some kind of butthurt fan who was just sad that you didn't get a good Justice League movie, right? But at the end of the day, it's like there's too many facts, too much information that leads to at least a really stupid, incompetent Warner Brothers, or something worse. That, and of course we all hope that it's not worse. I hope that they're not evil, greedy, snakish people who are willing to throw anyone under the bus to, and could, of course, collude with, that makes no sense. I mean, obviously they're a company, they're trying to make money. These are the things that Zack Snyder fans think about all the time. So I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question, Dan.
To close out on this exhibition and these storyboards and this original planning, by Zack saying that the story has evolved since then, do you think that by them working on those scripts or on that story, is that them prepping for, if there were to be more projects in the future, let's have that ready? Or do you think that him saying it's evolved since then, I don't really know what the other side could be, because why else would you continue putting work into that story if you were not going to have any plans on working on anything else?
I mean, that, and also the whole 70 mil thing. The interview he did recently with Grace, talking about the best way to watch it, how to break it up if you need to, or how to take a break if you need to. And how he was kind of like, when that bit got leaked, and he was like, "Oh, that's really unfortunate." He kind of looked at the camera. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly where my my crazy conspiratorial, Zack Snyder fan mind begins, and where maybe some truth, about Zack Snyder being deliberate with some of the information that he leaks, or some of these intentions to the future. He said it a few times, like, yeah, I don't have any plans to continue this, but being so passionate about this story, I doubt that he wouldn't want to. I mean, he's put so many years, his life, blood, sweat, and tears into this, and I know that he knows his fan. He's so intimate with his fandom. I know that he knows that complacency is the last thing we need. If he says, "Oh yeah, I definitely want to do it," keep pushing, we probably wouldn't push as hard. Right. But if he felt like it was impossible, if he felt like we're the underdogs, we felt like the world was fighting against us, then we're going to be those Spartans, and do the Lord's work. So
that's exactly what Kelly said a few weeks back, where if you tell someone, "Oh no, you don't want this, or you can't have this," then you want it more. But if you say, you can have this, let's just keep asking for it, then by its very nature, people get comfortable. They don't want to push as hard, but instead it's like, here's what could have happened, but I don't think we're going to get it. That's when it's like, no, I want to see that plan. Now there's a fight. Now there's something to struggle for. Now there's something to aim for. And he knows how to.
This fandom embraces that struggle. Like, we're all in his movies really reflect that ideology. So it makes a lot of sense that his fandom would also do that.
And I'm also thankful that he has, out of all of this experience, at least he was able to come back and do the additional photography and finish up the Snyder Cut properly, and that this wasn't, and I think it's because he did surround himself with people like Deborah and Nolan, that he wasn't so sour to the entire experience. I know, I don't know, I probably would have been, but he... To come back and do this, even if it's not directly for Warner Brothers, it's for HBO Max, but just to even look at these scenes again, I'm grateful that we are on the other side of this. Of okay, he still was able to go back and seems to have excitement for that future. He still seems to be a fan of these things, even though it was a very unfortunate experience for not just himself, but all of the other people that he worked with and cared about from this shoot.
I wonder how the rest of the cast and crew also feel, because we have to realize, Zach underwent a lot, but so did they, and from what we've heard, the set on Justice League wasn't always the best place to be. So I wonder how a lot of these people feel about or felt about coming back. The ones who did for, additional photography, the ones who didn't, if that had anything to do with it, as well as, potential future movies, if they would feel like that's a place that they would want to go again, especially knowing that, I'm sure they all know Warner Brothers is really not wanting this. So I wonder how they feel about that. Because, you'll have to get the approval from more than just Zach to get something else like that together for, perhaps for future films.
One of the hints to what at least the actors that are down to play if there is a Justice League 2, I think is fully revealed by the additional photography that he did of Amber Heard, Jared Leto. And it seems like these actors seem to be like, all right, well, if we're going to film this additional photography, they must have at least agreed to, if something comes out of this, are you willing to come back? And if not, I'm sure he would have been quick to, replace a character or two with someone else that is willing to do the Justice League 2 and 3, which would be another undertaking onto itself.
And it's not like it would be completely impossible if maybe some of the small roles didn't want to come back, being that there's this massive apocalyptic story that could easily dispatch convenient characters, as well as a time travel element that you could really play with too. So, and also I think everyone really loves Zach. I think most of Zach's people that he chooses for his projects are like ride or die Zach fans, and that's the effect he has on people. So I'm not too worried about it. I've been I've been blessed to be a fan of his work, and to see that things typically work out when he wants to come back to the project. Everything has to fit together for him to do it. If he does it, I'm sure that everything else will kind of fall in line behind him.
They're definitely huge supporters of him. Jared Leto, especially recently, he's just saying nothing but nice things about him. Momoa,
yeah, they're like brothers,
They are. They really are.
It's so good to see.
We had talked about some of the leaks that may have happened. We don't know the full story yet as far as the original plans and script and all of that. As you mentioned, I think we will know sometime soon. But the other major leak that happened this week, this is via The Hollywood Reporter. The Snyder Cut itself was live for 2 hours on HBO Max in place of Tom and Jerry. We had previously seen that the very first trailer was also leaked online. I forget how, maybe a day or two before they were supposed to release it. And now we're getting a full cut on HBO Max under the wrong movie, which hasn't happened yet from my understanding on any of HBO Max's other projects. Do you think that this was a part of that intentional, possibly sabotage of this project, or was it an honest mistake on HBO Max's part?
I don't know whether to be angry at Warner Brothers or to be happy for Tom and Jerry, because they just got the best promotion of their life.
And some people are saying even the Snyder Cut really benefited from that leak, that it kind of backfired on, if it was intentional, on whoever tried to do it.
I mean, it just goes back to what we've been talking about before. I hope for the best. I suspect the worst, and I expect nothing. Nothing from Warner Bros. At this point. I don't know what they're going to do. Usually it's something incredibly stupid.
Right. It usually is.
And why they do it, probably matters. I mean, probably doesn't matter. Well, I don't know. I can't say it doesn't matter at all. I mean, if they're doing it because they're intentionally doing it, then that absolutely affects how we need to proceed, obviously. So I can't say it doesn't matter at all. But I mean, at this point, I got to do my best. I got to do what I got to do. Support with my money. I don't have any control. None of us have any control over Warner Brothers. I mean, at this point, it's like if you're a business and you choose not to take someone's business, even if they're trying to give you their money, their time, and their your promotion and all that, then there's really nothing that you can do. We're really just hoping that the consumerist society that we live in comes through.
I also love
So,
the idea of Jason and Casey Bloys, both Jason coming from the world of Hulu, now taking control of HBO Max and handling these different properties, going, what the hell did I undertake here? Not necessarily like regretting it, but like, all right, now there's this other studio that's possibly messing around with my streaming service over here, and these fans are
wow.
tagging me on Twitter going, hey, you should look into Hamada or Toby or someone and see what's going on over here. Why are they intentionally not promoting your product?
What's this guy's name?
Casey
From
Bloys?
Hulu?
Jason Kyler
Oh,
was previously
Jason
on
Kyler's
Hulu.
from Hulu.
Yeah.
Did he jump ship when Disney the Disney Siege came through?
I believe it was before the Disney buyout, but I think it was like a promotion in AT&T to then take over HBO Max, from what I remember reading. Because he had so pumped up Hulu to a success, and then he had then been hired by AT&T, and obviously they're like, all right, well now let's make our thing into a massive streaming service.
Okay, yeah, no, that's definitely really interesting. I mean, so far Jason seemed to. He's been giving us a very neutral, a very unbiased shake. He's not like a Greg Silverman, where it's like, directorial vision and artistic integrity for everybody. You get an integrity, what he's doing is he's just looking at the numbers, and he's just saying, hey, there's interest here, and he's just being neutral and unbiased, as though he doesn't have any personal stake or ego in the matter. He doesn't have a horse in the race that doesn't have to do with the business side of things, and that's all we really needed. So if he can just keep doing that, I think we'll be okay.
Especially as we continue to support it and get these numbers up on all platforms, not just on the streaming, but making the film trend for HBO Max and AT&T every day.
Get that Steelbook box set, bro.
Yes. Well, let's talk about some of the merch that we now have seen. McFarlane Toys has revealed the Snyder Cut figures for Cyborg, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, deluxe versions of Steppenwolf and Darkseid. These are part of the DC Multiverse line, 7-inch scale figures, 22 moving parts, full range posing. Right now, they're listed at $19.99 for the Justice League members, and then the deluxe figures, which are larger, are listed at $39.99. Another thing that the movement can support. They come out January of next year. Have you seen the moldings or the pictures of these yet?
I have, yes, and they're pretty awesome. They're really great. It's just great to see, because I'm not a huge toy guy myself. I think like anyone, I'm sure I can appreciate a well-made toy figure model, and these are really cool. I don't know necessarily like as far as quality, like, is the likeness good? Is it a quality mold? Is there color bleed? Is there like jagged edges? Or I'm not like I can't inspect it, but I'm looking at them, and it's really cool to see these characters as Zach intended them to be, kind of promoted in such a way where it's tangible. Like not too long ago, we saw the first trailer. It was the Hallelujah trailer, and it's like, I don't know, like, is this real? Like, is this gonna happen? Like, there's a trailer. I mean, maybe if we wait a little bit, maybe when the second trailer comes out, we'll actually believe it's happening. But at this point, the movie is right around right around the corner, and we have like toys and merch, and they're selling, like, people are buying product. It's way, way too far for them to nuke this. Like, this is going to happen. Just seeing these toys is just kind of more confirmation that, like, wow, it's here. So yeah, these toys are kind of beautiful on multiple levels. I'm really digging it.
I thought that the McFarlane designs really did these justice, because, they didn't put out these characters and make the costumes with them, at least I don't think, with the intention of, okay, now we're going to mass produce these into toys and Happy Meals and all that. You just look at Steppenwolf himself, and that that's not meant to, that they made it based on what Zach and
Yeah.
the story and whatever the story called for, as opposed to let's see this on mugs and on T-shirts.
Right.
But
They're not watered down at all. They're like they're really like accurate representations of the characters first before they're, convenient or throwaway.
Mhm. And they did look great. They made it work. McFarlane Toys really did make these work because I don't know. I want to kind of see the process as they went through and translated these, because someone like Steppenwolf couldn't have been easy to make into an action figure that you can move around, pose. Darkseid, the rest of the Justice League members, their costumes are a little bit more complex than your typical superhero movie. And I think they really pulled it off. And I can't wait to, I think I'm going to have to open mine and check them out, because I'm probably going to end up buying multiples anyway. One to keep sealed and one to play around with, and whatever helps more movies come out, so be it.
No, something else that's kind of interesting. So McFarlane Toys is like they're their own company. DC would have to probably contract them to or license the product to them for them to make the toy, right?
Yeah.
And when was the first time we saw, like, for instance, Zack Snyder's Steppenwolf, like, his version of Steppenwolf? That was back in the Hallelujah trailer. So and then to design these toys, especially something as complex as this, and then to have it available, like, packaging, everything is realized. How long ahead of time would HBO, DC, Zach, or whoever the powers that be, how long ahead of time would they have had to contact and share the designs and, like, make these arrangements and plans before we're seeing them now for this to actually come to pass? Does that make sense?
That's a great question, because for a little while there, like even a month ago, we didn't really see a ton of merch. Obviously, there was the AFSP stuff, but we hadn't seen like the Justice League variants that are about to come out. That wasn't something that I saw happening. The toys themselves, I thought that we were going to get all of this stuff. The Funko Pops are another thing. After the Snyder Cut had been a success, I feel like that's when we would have gotten, okay, now there's these toy companies. They see that there's something there. Now we're going to get the merch. I think it's great that we're getting it now. That's awesome, because we can support it early and maybe more companies will get on board. But that's a great question, because how far in advance, that shows that they have confidence in this so-called cul-de-sac of a project. You don't make merch. Right. You don't put all this stuff out for a single one-off thing. At least that's how I'm still reading it.
And let's just say that it was one-off, right? Imagine how valuable all of this merchandise, including the toys, the figurines, and models, will be if it is indeed one-off. I mean, I don't think it will be, but just the threat of it being one-off could actually propel this merchandise. Because just as a collector, I mean, I'm not a collector, but let's say you're not a big fan of Zack Snyder's Justice League, but you like, DC characters, and you're a merch collector. I mean, you'd be like, wow, like this is gonna. And especially if you don't like Zack Snyder's Justice League, or you maybe have doubt that there will be more content from here, I would imagine you'd be like, man, if I collect this, like this could really be super valuable. And what do you think about that?
I think that's definitely a possibility. We are living in a seller's market right now. That's something that I've definitely noticed after COVID, that a lot of people started becoming sellers rather than collectors. And it goes back and forth, but that's just the age we're in right now. So I can see that happening a lot easier. I kind of predicted that all of this stuff would get underprinted. They wouldn't meet the demand that is actually there. And I don't think that's happened yet. I haven't seen anything that is no longer available. Oh, I guess the Funko Pops, those went really, really quick. I don't know how limited that run was, but I kind of expected that to be.
Those always go quick. I mean, they're like what? Like they're so cheap, They're so cheap. But,
yeah, they are. So it could happen if it's a one-off. I think Darkseid probably would be the most popular one or collectible one, because we're going to see more Steppenwolf than Darkseid in this film. Darkseid is going to be more, Justice League 2 and 3. He's the more what-if character. And if we got nightmare versions of some of these figures, that would be another like, oh shit, like amazing. We never got to see these. Yeah.
Right. Imagine, Joker, like,
oh my God,
that would be incredible. Imagine Joker with the crown of thorns, like a figure, like, like, whoa, like, tell me the story behind this figure.
Someone needs to exclusive that figure.
Ooh.
McFarlane needs to shop this around to different retailers, big box stores, and say, all right, who's the highest bidder? Who wants this Crown Joker to
Make
be
that limited
exclusive? A
edition.
Target, Target exclusive. Needs to happen. You mentioned you're not really a collector these days, or at least currently, but is there a piece of merch that hasn't yet been made for Zack Snyder's Justice League that you'd want to see that would make you immediately jump on that buy now button?
Honestly, so all of the Apocalyptians, I really want to see Desaad. I think that out of all the characters that I've seen, I actually love Desaad's design the most. That kind of like weird chainmail robe. He has this very kind of like, papal kind of churchy, priesty kind of vibe going on, like some sort of dark priest, with his robe and like the symbols that kind of encrest it, and knowing how he serves Darkseid in this kind of like hierarchy of this monarchy situation going on. It's really, really interesting. I just love his design. Seeing like a large model of that with some, a lot of detail would be really, really cool. And just to have like all of the Apocalyptians, even like Granny Goodness, all together would be that would be insane. Because how often do you see the Justice League? Like, there's so many versions of those. I don't know that I get to see the Apocalyptians, nevertheless, envisioned in the way that Zach has done it. So that'd be really cool to see.
I love that you brought up the chainmail hood on the sod, because I get a very medieval type of vibe from that.
Right.
And it's like Zach really wants to make that Excalibur movie. And it's like if Justice League 2 happens, that I think wherever Apocalypse is, that's going to be this Excalibur epic.
Yeah. It's going to be insane. It's going to be amazing.
Before we close out on Snyder Cut news and jump into what's being added to HBO Max for this month, is there anything? I've noticed that you're not on Twitter these days, and there's this weird movement, and I don't know who it's brought up by, but whenever all of these leaks happen, they've been purposefully trying to find accounts to spoil the movie. After it had already, I guess, released on HBO Max for a couple of hours, or someone on Reddit found the copy from one of these reviewers, and we knew that this was going to happen. I think we were all mentally prepared for the leak. We're preparing for the review bombs that are inevitably going to be a part of this. So I think we're wiser for it, especially after what happened with BVS and everything. But it's almost like this bizarre counter to this project that it's a lot of people are like, regular normal people, general audience are like, why do people care if this is a success? Like, why are they trying to spoil this for this other? I'm still trying to figure out, like, are these Disney fans? Are these MC? Are they just anti-Snyder? Like, where's all of this really concentrating from?
And again, like I can only say certain things with certainty. And those are very few things nowadays. It seems like there's a lot of complexity in this. I think that if you are a person who is looking for what fan base is any more passionate than Zack Snyder's fan base? Star Wars.
Even Star Wars is kind of fragmented between the three different trilogies.
Exactly, and it's not really around an individual. And there's also a certain level of like morality and justice that's wrapped up into it because of what happened to Zach personally, his family, and just the fact that he interacts with us personally. We're so tight. So when you mess with Zack Snyder's fans and his content, you get a really strong reaction. Anyone who wants a reaction or profits off of a reaction would be remiss if they didn't come after us.
That's true.
So that alone would engender a lot of trolling and things like that. And then in regards to, I don't know. I've been thinking a lot, and there's a lot of people who like Disney's stuff, MCU stuff, and Zack Snyder stuff. There's a lot of what I would at one time call normies, that like just all stuff, and hey, it's all good. It's all, I just want more.
Yeah.
And I personally don't. I'm kind of a pretentious guy, so I don't really like that ideology. I usually prefer very specific things for specific reasons. And
Mhm.
I don't even subscribe to the, oh, all DC is good or all Marvel is good. I have very specific requirements, but that's just me. But hey, power to you. If you're wanting to be positive or whatever. But then on the other side of things, there are some DC fans who are very wrapped up in the wars, the comic book wars or whatever, and some Marvel fans that are too. So I suppose that there's some out there as well. A lot of it's, I think, just with social media. And I'm sorry if I'm rambling a little bit here, but it's a great question. It's like there's so much to it, and but with social media, a lot of it has to do with conflict, and they want you to really take a strong side and feel offended if someone else doesn't. So I think that people who do these things, say these things, might not really always feel that way. They don't really feel that strongly. They feel like they're compelled to. If they don't make a strong stance against Zach, then how could they be a real Marvel fan or whatever? So
Mhm.
I don't know. It's a complicated question. I hope that people are well intentioned, but I know some people just want to watch the world burn.
Is that one reason why you've kind of taken a break from social media, at least for the moment, kind of preparing for the Snyder Cut?
Well, I've been off of Twitter for actually a few months now, but man, I'm not even sure if this is the place to get into it. Twitter is has done a lot of positive things for me, and it's clearly done a lot of positive things for the movement.
Mhm.
It's like things get. I mean, I hope I'm not getting too deep here, but things get tough, especially with the whole COVID thing. And, I have enough emotional insecurities and just issues to deal with. So with the constant conflict with Twitter and, just always trying to incite you to anger or frustration or outrage, and just all the drama that happens on it. I'm like, you know what? Let's try to simplify my life a little bit.
Mhm.
So that's the easy, sort of easy answer.
No, I get that, especially over the last year where there was a lot of infighting too between the different groups in the movement as well,
Right.
which the Exiles Network did an amazing job, which you're a part of, breaking down the different factions, which I won't get into here today. But if anyone is interested in some of that, I can see where anyone could get overwhelmed with, even if you just surround yourself with Snyder Cut supporters. It got pretty heavy over the last
Right.
year, and I absolutely get it. And before we go into that HBO Max stuff, though, you had talked about some of the general audience. Do you think that so far, at least I've noticed at a comic shop, more and more people that I'm not familiar with, non-regulars, are bring up the Snyder Cut whenever I'm playing Man of Steel or BVS on
Hmm.
the store television? Do you think we're at that point where we have captured the general audience's attention to get them to give Zack Snyder's Justice League a proper watch, or do you think that
Yeah.
we're still kind of trying to push for that?
I feel bad about saying it, but I believe this. This is what I believe. I believe that there's a large portion of people out there who are very easily persuaded by the narrative. The narrative has been relatively positive with Zack Snyder as a underdog, coming up story. He just won the Valiant Award with the Critics Association,
Mhm.
award. Him getting a chance to come back, and that Vanity Fair article is very positive about him. Grace Randolph he's done a lot of opportunities to speak his mind, let people know his story, who he is as a person. This movie clearly looks better than the last one, which, even the most ardent hater will say that at worst this will be slightly better than the theatrical cut. At worst, if you really want to be cheeky about it.
Right.
And a lot of normies out there who just, eat up whatever. We've been working overtime to change the narrative, so I'm happy that they're just sucking this all down.
Mhm.
Because I do see a lot of people, who are like, yeah, I'm actually really excited to see this. And, they read the headlines of whatever articles come out, and there's been a lot of stuff that's been like, hey, Zach's going to come back and fix the issues with the first one, and that's just enough to get people hyped about it. And I think that Zach himself and his fandom has done a really good job with sharing it over social media, word of mouth. I'm always talking about it when I get an opportunity. I work at Best Buy, and I've seen them playing BVS on their big 85-inch Samsung 8K or 82-inch 8K, and it's just been such a good conversation starter. All these different, the promotions. I've been seeing like scrolls and ads on buildings and posters, and it's great to see him in a positive light. What was your original question? Like, do you think it's changing
Yeah,
the
that we kind of
general?
captured the general audience's attention where they're going to give it a shot. And I think you nailed it perfectly by
Yeah,
saying that they are easy. I don't know if some people might take that as like a weird thing to say or a cruel thing to say, but I think people are easily swayed by public opinion. We know this because of Rotten Tomatoes. How many
right.
people go, well, I have this interaction all the fucking time at the shop where a movie will come out and I'll say that I enjoyed it, and they'll say, well, I heard that it didn't get good reviews. I heard it wasn't very good. And I'll
Yeah.
always say, well, I don't listen to reviewers. Oh, well, I don't either. And they just said, I
Yes.
heard it didn't,
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. And it's like, is it cruel to? I mean, I don't know. I have my own vices. I'm not going to act
Yeah,
like
of
I'm
course.
perfect or anything, but a lot of people are just very easily swayed. They really want to fit in.
Hmm.
They really want other people to think well of them. They want to be on the right side of history. They want to always have the right opinions. They don't want to, and for better or for worse, you can use that, and we've done it. We've turned the ship around,
Hmm.
and we're steering in a good direction. Now people are excited to see what he has. They just want to know, like, okay, this is 4 hour, like, even the people who don't understand what it is, like, oh, he added stuff, or like, ultimately at the end of the day, if they have a completely wrong opinion about it, like, let's say he did like recreate this movie from the ground up. If they love the crap out of this movie, even that's a better narrative than the other option,
Hmm. Yeah, and
So
I've also noticed too that as I'm talking about BVS, Man of Steel, the Snyder Cut, there is also a change in opinion about those older movies where they're
there has
saying,
been, it's been
yeah,
gradual.
it's
Yeah.
interesting because they'll be like, I didn't think BVS was that bad. I actually liked it. It's really weird how over time, I don't know if it's that it aged better with people, or some
Hmm.
people use the Ultimate Edition as like their entry. Like,
Yeah.
that's the one I liked, and now they can be on the right team, so to say. So
Right, right. And honestly, you know what? Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
whatever.
It
Like,
helps. It all
sure,
helps.
it helps. Like, just you gotta just take the W.
Yeah, like I'm
But
like it is great, and I just play along. Like you're
right,
welcome to the
and
team.
and it's better in a lot of, like, you can't always have a nuanced discussion with every Joe off the street.
Mhm.
So I'm not worried about that. But hey, I want to give a shout out to the Real Rejects. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the those two. They're like a YouTube channel.
I've seen them on Twitter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're really fun and cool guys, and I used to watch them, years back, and recently when the whole Snyder Cut thing's been going on, we've been getting trailers and teasers and whatnot. They've been watching it, and one of them, I forgot his first name, so kind of a half-hearted shout out, I guess. But he said he watched the Ultimate Edition, and he saw like some of the connective tissue and how they've improved things, and he's like, he completely turned around gradually on it as he's watched it several times, and they're a big channel. They're like, I think, like 700,000-800,000 subscribers, and they cover all the nerd stuff, and they're really been pushing and repping this hard. So, like, because I've been off of Twitter for a while, I've been on YouTube to kind of, I don't know, stay in touch with reality and what's going on outside of my four walls. And I've just noticed a lot of like people who are not in the Snyder fandom, not in the DCU fandom, who just kind of very general geek YouTube pages doing like video essays and retrospectives and reviews on Man of Steel BVS with very positive lenses. So I can't help but think that people are seeing this wave of positivity, and they're writing it to like you might have said, to kind of be on the right side of things. And or maybe they're just legitimate. Maybe they've always liked it, but now they feel comfortable to come out
Mhm.
because we set the groundwork for that. And I think it's another tribute to the Snyder fandom.
Exactly, because you were there when BVS and Man of Steel came
Oh
out.
yeah.
Even if you just said you enjoyed it, not even taking the internet away, like with people you knew, family members, coworkers, you
Yeah.
were
No.
immediately questioned on it. Like, why did you like it? It was terrible. How come you liked it?
Right.
And you don't
Like,
get
oh,
that
I
today.
can't trust your film. Are you trolling me right now? Like, you serious? Like, yeah, in everyday life, people would say that kind of stuff. It's like, man, like, why are you so skeptical? Like, you know me. Like, why are you being so skeptical of me? Like, why, but it was so cultural that people just
Mhm.
really jumped down your throat about it. Yeah.
I'm glad we're on this other side of it because it feels good. It feels good
Yeah.
to be on. I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, this is kind of nice. I'm not trying to get too comfortable on it either, but
Right. Oh,
it's like,
we know what promises are worth, don't
oh
we?
yeah, yes we do. And we are very close to actually witnessing and watching the Snyder Cut and dissecting it. We're going to, as a fandom, that's what we do, and we're going to continue to dissect it for years to come and start connecting all of the dots between Man of Steel all the way through to the Snyder Cut, because there's going to be all kinds of things to discover. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing everyone's different takes and discussions. I hope that you do something on the Exiles Network for when this comes out, or when you come back on the show, hopefully, and we can talk about it here. But it's a very exciting time to be on this like cusp of finally we are here. Finally, we're going to watch it.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, I do. I know that we have a lot of shared audience, and it's been a little while since we've posted, as much as we used to. We've been kind of on the DL for a little while, but I do actually have some content planned. I guess we'll make an exclusive here first. I'm doing a YouTube reaction series actually of Attack on Titan, which I know that you're a very loyal and very long time patron of ours, so we're gonna go ahead and let you and the rest of our patrons actually get that first. But
Nice.
I'm almost caught up, so we're gonna be releasing that as soon as I get caught up to the week by week on this final season. So that'll be coming out relatively soon. I have to start the editing. I've been recording it, but haven't gotten any of the editing done. You know how that is.
Yeah, that's the fun part.
Right. So yeah, and then of course when Zach, I'll have some stuff on my personal YouTube channel, as well as through our more mainline channels as well. Definitely got to come through for Zach on that one.
It's really exciting. I'm excited as a fan, so I can't wait. All right, so let's go finish off today's episode with what's new on HBO Max, the March 2021 highlights. Going down this list, we have Blade, Constantine, The King's Speech, Red Dragon, Tim Burton's Corpse Bride, Rocky 1 through 4, Speed, Superman the Animated Series, Zack Snyder's Justice League, and Godzilla vs. Kong. This is kind of a curated list of things that I'm really excited about that I think we can both kind of touch on. Where do you want to start on this list? Anything that you kind of have fond memories of or that you want to revisit?
Well, this is actually, first and foremost, this is a really good list here. Blade and Constantine, I was never really into to those movies, surprisingly. And I'm actually really interesting that Blade was a WB product, wasn't it?
Yes. It's kind of what saved Marvel.
Right. It's really weird. Constantine, that was one with Keanu, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I never watched that one either. The King's Speech, though, I really like that director. He also did Les Miserables.
Okay.
With Hugh Jackman, so that's a really great one. Corpse Bride was really great. Rocky movies, has been a long time since I watched any of those. Animated series. I mean, the great thing about HBO Max is how Warner Bros. has such a rich history of content. So yeah, I mean, this is really great. I think, of course, though, the thing that's going to probably spark most of the discussion, well, of course, from ZSJL, is the other versus movie. That's not BVS.
Huge Titan, Godzilla vs. Kong. That's the one trailer that Zack Snyder's Justice League was just under, as far as I believe it was the first 24-hour views. And it missed it by just a little bit, but the Godzilla vs. Kong movie that's one that from the get-go the audience was excited for. It's not something that they really needed to push hard. And I'm glad that this seems like it's going to be a greater success as a Godzilla fan than King of the Monsters. I like King of the Monsters and I like 2014's Godzilla, but for whatever reason, King of the Monsters underperformed, even though it had what people were seemingly asking for: more monsters, more fights. You can see them clearly in the daylight, and it hit all the spots, but for the audience just wasn't there for it.
Right.
And I think Godzilla vs. Kong is going to be a greater success than the last one.
Do you think that King of Monsters was a reaction to the first one, like Justice League was the BVS?
I still think that it came out too late, too separated from 2014's Godzilla, because that one came out in 2018.
Well, BVS was in the works for what, like it was in the works for a long time.
Yeah, that's another way. It came out several years after Man of Steel. That's true too, but that one did incredibly well. I don't know, because I feel like maybe people had moved on from Godzilla at that time, or it was just a terrible release window. I don't really know what it was that didn't get people excited for that particular sequel.
I didn't really like King of Monsters. I liked certain scenes. I won't go too into it, I suppose, but I was pretty lukewarm on it. But I felt as though it should have done better, because it seemed like the kind of movie that should have done better, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it's kind of felt like more of a crowd pleaser than the 2014 one. Especially now when I played in the store, I started noticing like those the MCU jokes is what I call them, where they call Ghidorah, gonorrhea, and I'm like, oh man, that would have been a Guardians joke right there. Or so I noticed that's all in there, but I'm able to move past it because we do get really great fights from the monsters. Their designs are incredible. Yes,
Michael Daughtry, I think his name is the director of that, and also the marketing was incredible. He had like some really like cool like biblical lines. He used like some verses from the scriptures and with character posters for each of the villainous monsters. I'm like, man, like this is really tickling my Zack Snyder bone. You know, I'm like this is really getting to that symbolism and all that kind of stuff that I just love. And then the visuals were incredible. The music was great. I watched it in IMAX, and it was incredible.
Nice.
It was incredible to see. But just, in retrospective, it felt, kind of, and there were some of those cringe moments in there where I was like, oh. But no, in general, I wish it would have done better. I really do.
Do you think that I don't know if you saw the article on online where they brought on this new director for Godzilla vs. Kong, and to contrast him with the underperforming King of the Monsters, and one of the quotes that he said is they wanted a tonal change, which sounds familiar to me, with Godzilla vs. Kong, because the previous director was more known for his horror films, and they felt that maybe the King Ghidorah and all the other monsters were too frightening maybe for audiences, and by having Godzilla vs. Kong, this is what this director was saying, is that this is why I was brought on, to give a different tone to this new movie. And that got me a little worried, because I want less of those jokey scenes, and it sounds like we might be getting some more of it. And I was joking with LGG, like, I better not see Kong and Godzilla do a fist bump or something.
The first one was what, like, was it Gareth Edwards? No.
I don't remember who directed that one.
Yeah, I forgot. I think it was like Gareth, or it sounded something like Gareth. But anyway, regardless, that was it had this interesting family drama behind the scenes. That was like really interesting with Bryan Cranston. You had this very enigmatic, Godzilla. It's this mythological Godzilla that reminded me a lot of, Zack Snyder, how he kind of uses his heroes and characters, where it's more about how they affect the world, how people look at them, how people view them, how it changes their lives and culture, society, how it roots deep into people's psyches. And I know that sounds way too deep for a Godzilla movie, but that first Godzilla movie was really good. I love the way he treated Godzilla. And then the second one, it was like, they were all out kaiju brawl fest, and it was fun, IMAX, blaring, the Skreonk was cool, and, and all that. But it was a lot brighter, a lot more colorful. There's a lot more, MCU jokes in there. And I was like, okay, whatever, I can deal with it. And then to hear this, it's always, why is it always, whenever a change needs to happen, it's always a tonal change. Like, why can't people have an issue with something that's not the tone,
It couldn't have been the marketing. It couldn't have been the writing. It had to be the tone.
It's always the tone.
Yep.
Like, and then what do people do to fix tone? They either take out jokes or add jokes. Like it's so stupid. Like so stupid.
It's always an overcorrection, which then
Yeah.
alienates the fans of that previous thing. So now you're stuck with nothing. You're not going to gain a whole new fandom by making the third one funnier or darker or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I'm not a marketing expert, but I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, we're just talking as audience members over here. Just seeing what we observe and what we've seen in the past and been very much affected by as a fandom.
Warner Bros. Again, you know?
Yeah. But I'll give it a shot. I'm excited still for Godzilla vs. Kong.
For sure.
Are you Team Kong or Team Godzilla?
Man, it's, you know,
you gotta pick a camp.
I'm one of the pretentious Godzilla fans. I mean, you know, I'm not the team monkey, you know. We can go into the weeds about, you know, about that, but also just in general, I'm a big fan, being that this is, you know, Godzilla's universe. I'm a big fan of kaiju and of Japanese anime and, you know, and more Eastern kind of influences like that, you know. Big fan of anime. So in general, I have a very like fond memory and idea and respect for Godzilla. And King Kong is really an outsider to me, like in multiple ways, not only because I'm a Godzilla fan at heart, but because this is legitimately Godzilla's universe and he's just coming into it. So
no, that makes a lot of sense. We don't have that one thing that it's not like we had a series of Kong films that we grew up on. We had a bunch of Godzilla films, the originals. We had even the Matthew Broderick, you can say, like we had a bunch of Godzilla content growing up that made us, I think, pretty attached to the character. So now that makes a lot of sense to me.
And also King Kong is never, like in his own story, like he is always, his story is pretty much the same. You know, like it's always like, oh, there's a woman and he's getting attacked and he's confused and what's going on. And then, you know, he saves the woman and gets killed, or, you know, or something like that. You know, it's like, oh, you know, I'm just trying to be left alone kind of thing. Whereas with Godzilla, I mean, he's been everywhere.
Right.
It's like he's more of a franchise. You know, there's not as much. Are there any Kong fans out there? Like, honestly, the only Kong fans that I know are fans that just want him to win this movie. You know,
I understand what you're saying, where there's not like where's the fandom that's collecting all of the Kong previous merch and all of that. It's not
right.
I totally get that. I am Team Kong. I will say that, but I watched Skull Island and
Skull Island was amazing.
Yes,
I love that movie. It's incredible. Yeah,
that's also on HBO Max now, so people can catch up and watch that, King of the Monsters, and really truly understand how Kong is this incredible threat. And the reason I think that the outcome will be, at least in their fight, will be Kong's, is that, you know, the trailer itself tells us the story of here's how this little girl and Kong are going to connect to the audience, so that we feel like maybe Godzilla does do something that endangers this little girl's life, and whether or not Godzilla is under control of something or is trying to destroy a weapon that's on that ship that same little girl is on, I'm not too sure, but I think that the audience is going to be more on Kong's side, just from a storytelling perspective.
Oh yeah,
at least that's what I feel like they're trying to do. Well,
honestly, it does make sense. If I'm trying to be objective about it, I think it makes sense. A lot of times, Godzilla is a representation in many versions of his story. I mean, some that are more comedic and it's not so much like that. But in some versions of his story, he's a representation of, you know, nuclear weapons and the fear that it instills. You know, after you know, Nagasaki and Hiroshima. So he's always been like this symbol of fear and destruction, even if it's not intentional on his own part. And Kong has always been like this kind of empathetic character, you know, especially in the originals, you know, the original stories. He's always been kind of someone you're supposed to empathize with. So if you're to take those characters mythologically and kind of put them together, you know, it's kind of like I mean, I don't want to say it's not really a Batman v Superman thing, but because it really is. I mean, I think it's kind of in our nature to kind of make everything like, you know, Snyder or whatever. Yeah. But it does give them two opposing, you know, ideologies. You know, it's hard to Godzilla is big, he's ugly, he's destructive, and although he's alone and people fear him, and he's a protector in a way, but there's just danger to him. There's this kind of like tragedy to his character, because although he protects the world, he's almost like he's not like a scalpel. He's more of like a white blood cell, who comes out when something needs to get killed, and that's what he does, and he destroys things in the way. And then you have Kong, who he's a lot more expressive. There's like humanity to his character. And I just think that, if you're trying to write a story about it, it does make sense to have Kong be at least the one that you're standing behind. If you want to play it a lot like BVS, what you would do is you'd have Godzilla win, but you'd have Kong have the moral victory, like Superman did in BVS.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
If you really wanted to do a deep job with it, I don't think they're going to do that. I think they're going to pretty much give the audience what they want, a big all-out brawl that's going to last more than 15 minutes and not a lot of themes and things like that in it. But we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's right. It's another one that's also right around the corner. At the very end of March, it'll have a simultaneous release on the big screen and also on HBO Max. Incredible service and incredible content heading our way.
But they're eating good.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they're the best. But as we close out our show, this is where I'd like you to plug the Exiles Network or whatever other projects. I know you briefly touched on it, but what you have coming out, where the Brocat Core can find you, and what they can look out for.
All right. So social media, if you can find me on Vero, you'll be finding me at Millennial Mike. That's where I'm at on Vero. So definitely follow me there. I think Vero's I'm not like a Vero advocate or anything like that. And a matter of fact, the app could use some work. I won't be too harsh on them, but it could use some work. But definitely, if you do care about what I got to say, what I got to post, I do actually use that quite a bit, when I can. So, follow me in Vero. You can also, I'm going to be posting my Attack on Titan reaction series. We're going to go from episode 1 all the way up until the current episode, 13, I believe. And it's actually going to be going until 16. And I imagine they're going to extend that last season, the final season as well, probably part 2. So I'll be keeping up with that on Ronin Council on YouTube. It's Ronin Council. And I have one episode up, I put up there, but we're going to have a reaction episode for every single episode there. So, keep on the lookout for that. And I do have some other projects in the work. It's been pretty crazy, pretty busy. My life and work situation has been really much more complicated than it has been in the past. So I'm trying to sort all this out, but keep on the lookout for me there, and I'll keep you in the know.
Awesome. You will find links to all of this also in the show notes of today's episode. I really missed the Ronin console. That was great. And there's previous episodes too, in case anyone wants to find them on Apple Podcasts. You can catch up with, I think it's evergreen content. It's not content that you need to, it's not like this one where the news will be old in a year. It's content that you can immediately.
We've always tried to do that. It's always content where it's like, analysis, discussion of things, and you can pretty much watch it whenever. It's not like time sensitive.
Exactly. So just like you said, search Ronin console. It'll pop right in. But otherwise, I do want to plug the Buds, Bros, and Superheroes podcast, which had me on as a guest during the Constantine discussion. This was particularly on the Keanu Reeves movie that just hit HBO Max, but we also talked about the character in general. So wanted to give a huge thanks to Nick, who also came on to do the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles discussion. And he will be on again on future episodes of this podcast, but wanted to make sure that in case you missed it, make sure to search Buds, Bros, and Superheroes on your favorite podcatcher as well. And our Discord lounge, which you can also find Millennial Mike on, but also others like the Lazy Gaming Guys. There's a link to that in today's episode. It is one of my favorite things to check on every day, and it's a great source, like Bobby said last week, of news that you can drop in on and really catch up on the latest stuff, not just Snyder related, but but everything, video games especially, because there's some great members on the Discord. But otherwise, Mike, I wanted to give you a huge thanks once again for helping co-host today's episode, and it really is awesome to hear you again, to talk to you outside
Great
of
to be here.
the internet,
Yeah.
and to actually discuss and talk, and it really is awesome. And
Yeah. You don't know how much it means to me, man. It's it's really great to make connections, and I just feel like, ever since this past year and all that's happened, I just appreciate it so much more. I really am happy to get back into podcasting and really making connections with people like, great people like you. And I wish Kelly, also awesome, and with what she's doing, and hope she does well in her endeavors and everything. So
thanks, man. Yeah, I'll pass that along to her. She'll really appreciate that.
yeah. So yeah, you guys are always great, and you've helped us out so much, and more than anyone could know. So thank you so much, Dan.
No, thank you. And I look forward to having you on again, Mike, and talking some more and catching up, and to your content that you have coming up, whenever that is. I'll be there as a fan to support and listen and enjoy.
Thank you so much.
Brocat Core, thank you once again for joining us this week. I'm Daniel, and all will be well. Back me up on this one. Do you ship Mothra and Godzilla from King of the Monsters? Was that not like the best, kindest, romantic?
Come on, King and Queen of the Monsters.
Yes.
I mean, and you know what? Like, relationship goals. I mean, Mothra standing up for Zilla like that. I mean, anyone who can stand up for, no one stands up for Zilla. Mm-hmm. No one does. Mothra stands up for Zilla. Like, that's ship material.
And literally put her wings over him, and it was in such a protective, and goes after King Ghidorah, and I'm like, this is...
I've never seen a butterfly look that intimidating. That was incredible.
They made it work. It was crazy.
Right. And I love when she's diving, and she has those sharp, the arms coming out. Everyone always laughed about Mothra before the movie came out, but having seen it, I'm like, man, they really pulled this off, and they made all the animals, all the characters seem so they had personalities, and there was a real culture, a real ecosystem to everything. It was pretty smartly done.
To this day, I have a resentment against Rodan because his fucking ass took down the queen and then dared to bow down before Kong. I still think Godzilla. And I still think Godzilla should have killed Rodan right there in that circle where they're all around for disrespecting his queen in that way. I think that would have been incredible.
Right.
Fuck Rodan.
Yeah, straight up discombobulate.
Yes.
With his tail, it's boom, discombobulate.
Done.
But yeah, no, that was, and what's so funny? They literally just murdered Mothra. It wasn't even the sparkles from after she explodes will go into the earth, and she'll turn into something else. No, they just straight up murdered Mothra. I was like, wow, this is, if this were I don't know, a Snyder movie, we'd have bloggers crying on the internet.
Oh yeah.
It's this is hateful against women.
Yes.